here's our training, here's how we've audited it, so that we can confirm that we're doing the right thing. So one of my favorite quotes related to this is, the perfect is the enemy of the good. And I wish I would have been wise enough to make that up. But we certainly see that it is hard to do. And if you've got to start somewhere, and it won't be right the first time, you've got to take your first shot at it and then do continuous improvement to get up to where it needs to be. So I would certainly encourage everybody to get their plans made, start your assessment, and start protecting yourself from a Victor Stanley type of event. So at this point, would like to have some questions, and Robin, will kick it back to you.
All right, do we have any questions?
We have another great question that just came in. This one is about mediation, whether e-mediation or using special masters is something that we would recommend. Recommend or not, I'm not going to make an opinion on that, but I will say that special masters, the use of special masters and the e-mediation movement has certainly taken off. It's a great way, or it has been shown in many cases to be a great way to save expenses in terms of e-mediation. Special masters, I believe, are really excellent when you have a case that has very complex e-discovery issues. That way, if you have a judge that is maybe not as educated about e-discovery, and certainly not every judge is going to be, nor should they be, this is a great way to have someone decide the issues, the electronic discovery issues, technical issues, from a cost perspective, a use perspective, a proportionality perspective, from a professional standpoint. So that was a great question, and definitely something that if you have a case that warrants it from a cost standpoint, I would suggest definitely looking into both of those options.
Thank you, Julie. Another question that came in for our outside counsel. Julie, how would you recommend that outside counsel support their clients in an e-discovery space? What advice should they be giving?
Well, outside counsel has an interesting role. As advisor to obviously their client being the corporation, it's important for outside counsel to be educated about electronic discovery. Now the trouble is that every outside counsel has numerous clients, so it's hard to be very involved in or very knowledgeable to a deep level about every corporation or client that you work with. However, every outside counsel has to understand at this point in time they do have an ethical responsibility, look back at Qualcomm versus Broadcom, to understand e-discovery to the point of being able to ask their clients for information, know whether they're getting it, be able to attend a Rule 26 conference and participate intelligently, as well as go through the discovery process and have their client actually produce information in a coherent and complete fashion. So I guess to summarize, I would say that outside counsel at this point, the bar has been raised. Qualcomm versus Broadcom, I would venture to say was one of the cases that hit that home.
Thank you, Julie. A question that just came in: does defragging computer files hurt document retention? And I want to give you a really roundabout answer on that. Defragging computer files should only impact files that had been deleted and where their pointers have been removed. And so by deleting that file in the first place, you may or may not be in conflict with your document retention policy. So I'd certainly recommend that people abide by their policy and then manage their files according to that policy. Now, if you have deleted files on your system, you run a defrag, the files are more or less removed. There's still forensic tools that can potentially pick up bits and pieces of them. Now, if you are under a litigation hold and you have a duty to preserve on that computer and you've ran a defrag, then you have likely spoliated evidence. And depending upon the implications of that case, you could find yourself in a really bad position. If this is a criminal investigation, then likely somebody is going to be looking at some pretty significant criminal penalties.
Okay, we have one final question that came in, and this is an interesting question, and I don't think I've ever been asked this one before. The question is, what cost savings and how do the solutions that companies like ours, like Scarab and Access Sciences, why wouldn't they, what is the cost savings or the services versus a law firm? Well, neither of us are law firms, for one thing. We're service companies, but we actually work to complement law firms. When a company or a client goes and hires outside counsel, they're hiring them for legal advice, for representation. Their job is to be knowledgeable in representing their client to the best of their ability, and sometimes the best of their ability means they need to go out and have people who understand this industry that is not their specialty. Therefore, we actually, both our companies work quite often with law firms as well as corporations. We're finding more and more today that attorneys are in the business of practicing law, not in the business of doing e-discovery. So outsourcing that to people who are experts in the industry is often a time saver for their clients as well as themselves. Robin, I think we're going to turn it back over to you. We're just about out of time. We want to thank everyone. And Robin, I'll let you do our final thank yous.
Absolutely, Julie and Brian. Thank you, everyone, for joining our webinar. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation and have found it helpful. Please remember to complete the short survey following the close of the program so that we can gather your valuable feedback on these programs and continue to provide relevant and interesting webinars going forward. We will be sharing a replay of this webinar that will be available on our website, www.consultscarab.com, within 2 weeks. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@consultscarab.com, and we'll get right back to you. You can also